Before we get into it, generally, where do we stand on that process this late in the year?
We have a lot still ahead of us, and it's going to be an incredible ride.
You know, the game Whack-A-Mole comes to mind. I feel like we hit something over here, and something pops up over here. How it all ties together, I don't know.
That is a great visual.
It's more than a visual. This mole that comes up out of this hole, when you whack it, there's mechanical parts inside, underneath the machine that we can't see.
Yeah.
That are connected to all the other moles and all the other holes, and we're trying to figure out what's inside that machine.
That's so good.
Well, I think what you just said describes a big portion of our work, looking for connections that might not otherwise be obvious, right? Because we've seen results in which we're doing something of one kind or in one location, and we see an apparent response, or at least something that correlates elsewhere. You know, that's telling us we're onto something here.
Yeah, what is behind indeed, and you know, this notion of exploring the space, that's exactly what we saw you continue to do tonight in the Mesa. Jan Frankie's modified device, talk about the decision to put it in vertical borehole 1 and what that might yield.
The reason that Jan wanted to use this specific piece of equipment is that the other GPR units that we've been putting down, they look every direction, all the way around. This one is shielded, and so when we put it down the hole, when Jan gets returns, we know exactly which direction they're coming from.
And that would give us now a 3D GPR image of radially outward from the hole.
Last year, we stopped borehole 2 because we were up against something hard that they couldn't drill through. So that you would think that would show up in the GPR as well.
Exactly.
Again, our current understanding is that we have one very large central mass, the main anomaly in the Mesa, the GPR anomaly. But then we have these other separate bits that have shown up in previous scans. And you know, one of the things I'm hoping to learn is whether there's a connectivity between them. And so I'm hoping that we'll get a better picture of that. There was absolutely nothing in the spoils that came out of that vertical drilling operation this year that would account for that type of interference.
Absolutely not.
Nothing of such a hard material composition that it should have done anything. Shouldn't even scratch the tungsten carbide, and yet it was just completely obliterated.
Yeah, in addition to the, you know, whatever this hard substance was that stopped the drill, according to Chris Roberts, that's about the area that we got that type A ceramic-like materials.
So we either missed that spot or it's something more, I don't know.
We hope we missed that spot.
Yeah.
Because we didn't pull anything up. If we hit that spot, that's even stranger. That's even harder to explain.
Yeah, so at the very least, when we put Jan's GPR tools into service, it is to try to get things to start making some sense.
So this tool that you have kind of fabricated perfectly for this job, you know, we've only got 1 week left in terms of the audience watching you on this expedition. Do we have any data?
We'll be looking at that data next week.
Excellent. Great. I can't wait to see what that yields. We've come so far with so many different varied tests, and you tease these results coming next week. I want to get an idea generally from all of you of if you had to pick, if you had to give a best guess, what are we dealing with in the Mesa?
Well, we seem to be activating some type of system. Something is activated every time we attempt to explore the Mesa. We see effects of that seem to appear across the ranch, whether it be a bubble, be a Homestead 2, or other regions of the property.
Definitely.
Given the totality of the evidence and the materials we pulled out, and then you look at the GPR data of its spread, I mean, it does look like a debris field. If this is a crash site, I wonder if there was some condition here at the ranch that, like so many of our equipment, it got into that field and it fried it and it didn't operate the way it should have, and it crashed.
We're willing to entertain lots of hypotheses, and I think we're doing that in parallel. But one thing that I think I feel pretty comfortable saying is that given the diversity of materials that we're pulling out, none of which belong in the Mesa, we're dealing with something that is technological. We're dealing with engineered materials. I won't be surprised if, as we continue excavating in the Mesa, we find yet other components with other material compositions that'll help us to identify what it is and maybe the history of how all that got inside.